Hello, it's time for another edition of DBE TV News. You can watch this bulletin every week on the Department of Basic Education's YouTube channel and on OpenView, channel 122. Welcome, I am Tsegohajo Moagi. In our top stories this week, Minister Motshekga attends the launch of the National Reading Barometer. The Basic Education Law Amendments Bill public hearings have come to an end. Mobile operator MTN, together with KwaZulu-Natal Department of Education, opened 3 schools of specialization. And a school in the Northwest gets renovated. Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga has once again emphasized the importance of reading. She launched a new National Reading Barometer in a bid to promote literacy and encourage learners to read, but also urge parents to read with their children. This, of course, comes after statistics have shown that 85% of South Africans do not read, and the recent Pearl study, which also found that learners in grade 4 cannot read for meaning. The minister explained the significance of data-driven decision-making in improving reading for meaning and pleasure.
I really want to emphasize the significance of data-driven decision-making in improving our work, but also in improving reading. And the national reading strategy that presented today really will help us to continue to provide information on other reading, which are also found very enlightening, very helpful, their habits, attitudes towards reading, and access to reading material. So that I also find very helpful, because when we receive the Pearl report, some of the information that we share with people is also about the reading trends that are there in the country in different ways. So the survey helps to shed light on the current state of adult reading in our country and does allow us to identify where we've made progress.
The minister also spoke about the promotion of African languages in reading.
And it's one area I think I'm glad that it's coming up on an ongoing basis to say we have to make sure that we deliberately and consciously promote African languages. And again, I think the report has raised that, and I think it's something that I'm really glad that as a nation we're also ahead. Because indeed, the supply of African language books remains disappropriate. These are proportionally low compared to English books and Afrikaans. You see on the great classes that have been there, which are available and which our children, as they grow, because we've neglected that, and I think we have to own up with, neglected the development, the promotion and support of African languages. That's really going on. Even in universities are closed, different African languages departments are closing up because it just don't take up a lot of time. So we have to address this disparity and ensure that the reading materials in African languages are readily available and continue to be developed. Because improving reading outcomes requires, as you have said, requires a comprehensive and a collaborative approach. Once we believe that as a department we have a role to play,
the collaboration between various government departments is something the minister has welcomed and expressed her gratitude to those who continue to work with the Basic Education Department to ensure learners can read.
I'd like to stress the importance of collaboration between the Department of Basic Education, yes, the Department of Arts and Culture, civil society, your researchers, and publishing industry. Because I do believe that together we can achieve much more. So by working hand in hand, sharing expertise and pooling resources, we can indeed create a reading ecosystem and nurture the love for reading in every child and adult in our country. Now the second conclusion, essentially conclusion, The National Reading Barometer presents us with a wealth of information that will guide our efforts to improve reading skills and foster a rapid introduction. It is a call for action for all stakeholders to join hands and contribute to this global cause, and for that I do appreciate it.
Now, on a different day, Minister Motshekga attended a reading dialogue following the announcement of the 2021 Progress in International Reading and Literacy Study results. Motshekga said research shows that a 3-year recovery plan will not resolve the challenge.
It's a storm that came after a huge storm of COVID-19. And as much as one did expect a decline, because I was saying to people, if results said we had improved, I would not believe them. Because there was no way I wouldn't be able to justify to say what is it that we did differently, which we would not have been able to do, which would have made us to improve. The fact that we declined was not an issue for me, but what I did find depressing was the depth of the decline, which also showed that the storm, after the storm, just brought us huge cracks, which for me was very concerning, and it still is concerning. I recently visited, I think in February, we had the World Education Forum. It was when we designed our recovery plan, we based it on 3 years recovery plan. And research after research confirmed that the recovery won't take 3 years. It's huge. It's going to, at least we have to plan for a 5-year recovery plan, not a 3 years recovery plan. It will not take us out of the doldrums or the ditch that we find ourselves in.
Statistics have shown that 85% of South Africans do not read and only 5% are advanced readers.
The stats are saying in South Africa, only 5% of Russians are non-readers. And it says 85% of South Africans are non-readers. So meaning that even those that can read don't read. And then it says only 5% of us are advanced readers. So with them it's 5% who are non-readers, ourselves only 5% are advanced readers, or prof, not doctor, who read all the time.
Motshekga emphasized that this is everyone's problem and not a time to point fingers, but to work together to solve the challenge.
Let's maybe for once hold back the fingers and start pointing at the problem, not at anyone. And that's what I hope also this, through your leadership, leading the dialogues in the NECT, we will be able to get to a stage to say, let's point fingers at the problem.
The Basic Education Law Amendments Bill public hearings have concluded. The last hearing was held in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Basic Education and officials from the department have been holding the hearings throughout the country for about 4 months now. This was to increase the public's involvement on the way forward of the proposed 56 amendments.
The chairperson has indicated that the Bela bill has been compiled by the Department of Basic Education. It's true, it's not a bill of parliament. It's the Education Department that is making proposals to members of the community on some changes that we want to introduce to the South African Schools Act. There are about 56 of those changes that we are proposing, and I'm sure you got a copy when you came in, which indicates those 56 clauses. Now, you'll realize that when you go through the 56 clauses, it's not about the entire education sector, but it is about the administration of the education sector. Administration in the sense that it focuses on governance issues in the main and how the Department of Education needs to interact with various stakeholders in the department.
The public was given an opportunity to voice their opinions of the bill and the proposed amendments. Now let's hear what they had to say.
As SADTU, we want to state unequivocally so, categorically clear, that we are in full support of the amendment of the bill. SASSA came into effect in 1986, and there were minimal changes that were made to SASSA in 1996. It has been 27 years now, and those minimal changes that were made, we were trying not to be seen as the people who were making a hostile takeover of the country, hence the sunset clauses. It has been 27 years now. The sunset clauses have to step aside, and the change has to come into effect in the here and in the now.
I reject the Bela bill. I'm a homeschooler who successfully matriculated last year with a Cambridge International curriculum and a minimum mark of 88%. Not once in my school years was it necessary for the DBE to intervene, oversee, or assess my education progress, as I paced myself, assisted by my mother. Thus, I reject Clause 37, as I feel that it encroaches on homeschoolers' personal space and the rights to be educated in the way that best fulfills the individual child's needs. I'm a person who loves to learn slowly and methodically, understanding material deeper than is required by the textbook, and to understand subject matter fully before moving on. Einstein, for example, was not a great student, yet brilliant. He never did well at school, and certainly wouldn't do well with the fast pace of today's cap school system. Despite all of this, he changed the world, so let's be very careful. We could be dimming down the chances of successful future leaders, intellectual pioneers, and change makers emerging from this generation if we don't allow each child to develop in a way best suited to their specific needs.
I do support the bill, but on amendments with some sections. For instance, that clause of the corporal punishment at schools, we need to support teachers there, because you cannot just put a clause there and say that corporal punishment must be abolished, but there is not anything to alternate that. You don't have to leave it just like that. But I am not in support with that of the liquor to be sold at schools, because we are having problem now with our learners at schools using drugs. And alcohol is also a drug. We cannot allow alcohol to be sold in our schools because our children are not disciplined now.
I fully support the bill as it is. However, Chair, I wanted the department making sure on the issue of, I think it's Section 37. If all these schools, whether it's at home or what, are under the Department of Education, they must make sure are doing as Department of Education wants. Therefore, Chair, I fully support the bill. Thanks.
Stay tuned. After the break, we hear from the KZN Education MEC as she officially launched 3 schools for learners with special needs.
I am a nurturer, like you.
Real men stand against gender-based violence.
I get hurt, like you.
If I am a victim of violence, I too will not be ashamed to report violence and abuse.
I hate it when someone violates me, like you.
In a violent situation, there is power in walking away. I will not take part in fights at school.
All I want is to feel safe, to feel loved, and to be free to show love. Like you.
I cry when I'm hurt, because to feel is to be human. I pledge to be more open about my emotions.
Make it part of the new normal for young boys to be nurtured and loved, to freely express themselves and to show love in a safe, inclusive way. We have different gender identities, but first, we are human. If you need assistance to help your child, contact Childline on 08000 55 555.
Mobile telecommunications company MTN South Africa has opened 3 schools of specialization for learners with special needs in KwaZulu-Natal. This was done in partnership with the Provincial Education Department. This project is part of MTN's countrywide digital skills and education drive. Learners at Day Dawn Special School, ESTA Special School, and VN Nike Special School will receive internet-connected multimedia centers.
We are very much happy, we are very much encouraged, but on top of it, our learners are going to benefit because they'll be given an opportunity which is the same with other learners. I know that their situation is now not going to define who they are, but the opportunities given to them by the African National Congress-led government is now going to give them an opportunity to exhale. Thank you very much, MTN. Halala, MTN, halala.
The General Manager at MTN SA Foundation, Arthur Makuba, highlighted that their goal is to help increase access to digital learning and improve academic performance by providing reliable connectivity. To this now, Northwest Education MEC Viola Mutsumi has officially launched the Colini Special School Boarding Project. The project, which has been allocated over 260 million rand to demolish asbestos hotel buildings in the school, aims to ensure better quality living conditions for learners in the school. Mutsumi highlighted that this construction project will bring good quality accommodation to learners and will create employment for 300 people in the community. She went on to urge all participants in the project not to delay the process. The construction project is expected to be completed within 30 months. When we return, we look into a community service outreach program in the Northwest Province.
Hey learners in grade R11, feeling stuck or confused? Have you lost learning time in the last while? Well, Zolopilly is back to help you catch up. Find resources on the DBE cloud to use and share. Watch support lessons on TV or on our YouTube channel, where you will find exciting lessons in key grade R to 9 subjects. And for grade 10 to 11, have fun learning in many different subjects. Join our community of learners and teachers, parents and caregivers on Facebook, where there are tips and advice for better learning. Need help? Contact us via our WhatsApp line and get support on all your subject problems. Stay connected. You can count on us. Check out our website to find out more at www.zolopilly.org.za. Zolopilly.
The Department of Basic Education has urged South Africans not to believe a fake circular that is making rounds on social media. The circular claims that the department is encouraging school learners to discover their sexual orientation and seems to be directed at school administrators, principals, and educators. The department has made the public aware of the developed 2 draft documents, namely the Protocol for the Elimination of Unfair Discrimination in Schools, as well as the Guidelines for the Socio-Educational Inclusion of Diverse Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity, Expression, and Sex Characteristics in Schools. They have also pleaded with the public to dismiss the allegations as they declared the circular untrue.
We have become aware of a circular which is doing the rounds on social media. Various people are sharing it. It's around issues regarding comprehensive sexuality education in public schools, but also touches on other matters of inclusion. It also has some other paragraphs around social and sexual orientation. What we want to say as a department is that members of the public must ignore that circular. It is not a document from the Department of Basic Education. It does not have a logo. It does not have the necessary markers that would confirm it to be an authentic document from the Department of Basic Education. So the department, in response, has issued its own statement to correct that which the statement that has been circulating is saying. It is misleading people. It touches on sensitive matters that could easily cause divisions in the society, and we don't wish to see that happen. We are all about social cohesion. We are all about making sure that people understand each other. So we are saying that if you come across such a document, please don't share it, because it can only continue to do damage as opposed to assisting the department to communicate. The department has its own process in which it is consulting stakeholders who are assisting the department to come up with a set of guidelines that will assist schools to deal with matters of inclusion, particularly in schools where people come with their diverse backgrounds.
Northwest Education MEC Viola Mutsumi has donated 30 pairs of school shoes to learners at Madutle Primary School. Mutsumi emphasized that for conducive teaching and learning to take place, learners' needs like school uniform must be provided.
Policy is very clear and straightforward to say teaching and learning, because at the same time, so you produce 100% in terms of the result. So and also because
Mutsumi spoke against gangsterism in schools and in the community and emphasized the importance of safety in schools.
Because one day so I'm telling you,
That's how we end this bulletin this week on the Department of Basic Education's YouTube channel and on OpenView channel 122. Do remember to send through your stories or comments by contacting us on our Twitter handle at DBE TV News. We leave you with another edition of In the Spotlight. Thank you for watching.
My name is Neo Siditi and I'm the Director for the National School Nutrition Program. Well, we have the centralized model, which is a delivery model in order for provinces to procure and find food for learners and source food for learners in schools. And the centralized model is basically wages that will then be awarded with the bid in order for them to deliver, to supply and deliver food to schools. And then on the other hand, we have the decentralized model where the schools get funding from the Provincial Education Department, in turn then transfers the funds to schools. And therefore, in that instance, the schools take responsibility to get the supply and to get the meals ready for learners on a day-to-day basis. Well, we have learned some lessons out of the two delivery models. And one of the lessons that we have learned in terms of the centralized model is that one of the advantages is that you can actually maximize on economies of scale, because then you have large supplies in terms of the distribution of how the award and the bid has been determined. And it also depends as to how many suppliers are there. We have found that in the case of Western Cape and Gauteng, for example, where they only have 3 service providers in respect of Western Cape, and in the respect of Gauteng, there are only 26 suppliers. We find that there is much more efficiency in terms of the delivery, and you are able to also confirm the quality of products that are being delivered to schools. In a case where there is also allegations of food poisoning, for example, or food contamination, you will find that there is a higher traceability in terms of the food that is being provided at the school level, because then you can trace back as to where the source of the supply is. Whereas in terms of the disadvantages is that there is always a monopoly in terms of the selection of, in some instances, in terms of the selection of the award bidders. And there is also, there is also potential for corruption in terms of the selection. And I will not expand on that, but I think we know that that is also a challenge. In terms of the other disadvantage is that the schools have no control, as well as the district, they don't have any, they cannot hold, the service providers to account for any perhaps substandard food that would have been provided, or they don't have any control in terms of, the payment and the administration of how the service delivered, how the service providers have been providing food at the school level. Whereas in the centralized model, we do have, flexibility. The school management teams and the school principal have actually flexibility in terms of just getting the right quantities at the right time, because they only provide for a small learner population of a school, for example. So there is much more control, and there's also, they can also leverage in terms of pricing, because then they can negotiate with the suppliers in terms of, how much they can be able to buy for. And the other thing is that they also have the advantage that there can be savings. Even if they are being given, let's say in a quarter, a school is provided with 20,000 rand, you might find that there may be savings because then there is no middleman. There is no one in the middle that they should then be able to get, a portion of the costing that goes towards a middle person. So there is always that direct buying and therefore savings in the instance. Although the disadvantage of that is that schools also sometimes, go haywire and actually use those savings for other, school activities, which is also raising audit queries for the program. So it is a disadvantage in that sense. But I think we also, want to draw lessons from the two and actually say what is the best way forward, because we are now looking at reviewing the program and saying what is it that we can come as an alternative, although we are going to draw the best out of the best practices of both the central and the decentralized delivery model. Well, in terms of the menu quality, what we have looked at over the last few years is to look at the protein alternatives, because what we have had in the past is that we would have a repeat of a protein food item, for example, like soya. So what we envisage is that we want to have a 5-day cycle where there will be protein alternatives. And those protein alternatives, we have now introduced the chicken livers. It's a processed chicken livers, because ordinarily you would find the frozen chicken livers in a supermarket. But we have worked with the Department of Trade and Industry in terms of the National Regulator for Compulsory Specification, where we have worked with a few manufacturers that will be offering, the supply of the processed chicken livers. So at the moment, we have only 3 provinces that have rolled it out to all the primary and secondary schools, which is Free State, Western Cape, and Gauteng. But in terms of, the advancement that we have made in terms of the financial year, we have also encouraged provinces to put at least, to actually phase it in. In other words, then they would have select districts or select schools that then they will be able to start and then phase it in over the years progressively. So we're hoping that now we will have a variety of protein sources, and therefore the children will be able to enjoy more palatable food.